All right, folks, we continue on Smile Jamaica. As if going through a pandemic wasn't enough, the world is battling higher food and fuel prices, putting pressure on inflation, leaving many in the Caribbean to stretch already thin budgets. The Honourable Minister of Finance and Planning, Dr. Nigel Clarke, joins us on Zoom to make dollars and cents of it all. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Smile Jamaica. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Neville. I'm very well, thank you.
Simone is also with me, sir. And
Good morning, Minister.
This must be the most difficult time for any finance minister in the entire world because of the pandemic. What has it been like for you, sir, before we get specific, just to try in a very serious way to make sense of all that's going on?
It's been a very challenging time, Neville. When you think about it, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, the most devastating pandemic in 100 years, right? Which brought on the largest economic contraction since the Second World War globally and in Jamaica as well. The economy declined by 10%. And then, we're covering nicely 14% growth in the first quarter last year, 6% in the second, 6% in the third, looks like about 6% in the fourth as well. But only to be followed by, a supply chain induced inflation, which was beginning to moderate. And then February 24th, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has choked the supply of basic commodities in the world and sent fuel prices rocketing. It's a very challenging time for policymakers, especially for policymakers in small, developing and fragile economies or countries like Jamaica.
Yeah, we're all feeling it, Minister. It's trickling right down. Every consumer right now having an issue, fuel prices, food prices, for your case, elevation of government debt, which is going to affect us all. We seem to have weathered COVID pretty commendably. As we look forward now, and really within this context of this quote we have here from George Lamming about, the architecture of our future not only finished, scaffolding hardly going up. In terms of finances and outlook, Minister, should we be? A lot of us are despondent now. We're worried. We're scared. We see inflation. We're feeling it at the pumps. We're feeling it at the supermarket. What's the word as we look ahead as to how we build out the scaffolding on which we can build a secure financial future for this country, for this region? We're going to get into how we, benchmark across the region and look and learn from each other. But let's start here at home. The outlook.
Thank you for that. I mean, one of the first things to do is to make sure we have not only scaffolding, but we have a foundation for those who are most affected, for the most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That's what we've been focused on. Given the resources of government, it's not, we have to focus on those who are at the bottom, who need it most. And as a result, we have a number of programs that are in place. We had our NGO community who we partnered with over $200 million of resources to provide food for those who need it most. We have launched our GOJ Energy Copay, which contributes 20% of the JPS bill, the energy bill, for consumers who consume 200 kilowatt hours of electricity per month or less. And there were, the latest figures from JPS is that there were 480,000 households in that category. So for 480,000 households, which is by far, it's over 80%, 85%, I believe, of retail households in Jamaica, the government has come to their assistance with this GOJ Energy Copay. At the bottom of the bill, written in red, GOJ Energy Copay. And the government pays over to JPS 20% of the bill for those who consume 200 kilowatts or less. That has cost the government $700 million a month from May. So we are intervening on behalf of those who are most affected. We have also, for those on prepaid electricity, the government has contributed $3,000 per month since May. For those on prepaid electricity. No application is necessary, no standing in line is necessary, just a $3,000 contribution shows up on their phone that the government makes towards their electricity bill. And the average prepaid bill is around $8,000, $9,000 or thereabouts. So a contribution of $3,000 is quite meaningful. And, Jamaicans in lots of communities from, I don't want to name all of them, can't name all of them, but, Augustown, Tower Hill, people in Marvelly, people out in the west, in Granville, and many other places where prepaid is a dominant means of accessing electricity, an automatic $3,000 per month to their electricity bill. So that's what we're doing, Suzanne. We are intervening on behalf of those who need it most, who are at the bottom of the income ladder. And we think that's our moral duty to intervene there first. That's not to say others aren't affected, but it's important to know what the government is doing. And this is costing over $700 million per month so far. And it's much needed assistance to those who are receiving it. And 85% of households are receiving it.
Yep. That was my next question, Dr. Clarke, because Simone used the word commendable, and I agree with that. And you've been helping the vulnerable ever since the start of the pandemic. Where are going to get the money from to replace, obviously, what you didn't plan to spend in the first place?
Yeah, that's the thing about it now. I mean, this year, it's kind of has unfolded very similar to 2020 in that, remember, Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February. The budget was already done, already tabled, right? Tabled in Parliament on the 6th of February. So, the impact of Russia's war on Ukraine and these prices that we're experiencing, have meant that we have had to dig deep and find extra resources to channel to assist those who need it most. So that's what makes it extremely challenging. This is not something that would have been foreseen by anyone in the world, that Russia is going to come in and invade Ukraine, putting a blockade on grain coming out of the Black Sea, which has sent prices skyrocketing. So it is a very challenging and difficult time. There's no doubt about it.
So we're looking around at our neighbors. You've looked at the folks in Barbados. Grenada is doing some good work, and then we're looking at this framework of the IMF's New Resilience and Sustainability Trust, RST, Minister. Talk to us a little bit about this and how we're going to help use this to help us.
I'm so happy to hear you talking about the region. Sometimes we talk about Jamaica in isolation. Our region was the hardest hit region in the world by the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me say that again. The Western Hemisphere, if you divide the globe into the Western Hemisphere, Africa, Asia, Europe, etc., where Western Hemisphere was the hardest hit from COVID-19. Within the Western Hemisphere, the hardest hit sub-region was the region of the Caribbean islands. Okay? By far, the hardest hit. As a result, it has pushed a lot of countries in our region into very challenging times. Suriname and Belize, as an example, Bahamas, all having serious balance of payments problems. In Belize, they had to have a 10% pay cut in the public sector last year, 10% decline in income if you were in the public sector last year in Belize. So what the IMF has reacted to this situation and is trying to be very proactive. And last year, they issued something called special drawing rights. Special drawing rights is an international reserve currency issued by the IMF. And every country in the world got their allocation of special drawing rights last year, an equivalent of $650 billion US. The richer countries of the world who have a greater degree of resilience and who don't need to draw down on their special drawing rights are making those special drawing rights available through a trust fund to countries that are in need. So the IMF has put together a trust fund of about $45 billion US so far, and is making that available on a long-term basis to help countries build resilience against external shocks, to build resilience against climate change and other exogenous shocks. Mm-hmm. And, uncharacteristically, these funds are available for 20 years, which is very unlike the fund, the IMF. They usually lend for much shorter periods of time. And in addition to being loaned for 20 years, there's a period of 10 and a half years grace where nothing is paid back. So you draw down $100, and for 10 years, you don't pay a single cent. And then in 10 and a half years, you begin to pay it off, and you finish paying it off in 20 years. So it's called the Resilience and Sustainability Trust. And it was launched, or it's being launched by the IMF, and the managing director of the IMF came to the Barbados last week, and I moderated a panel with her and with the Barbados Prime Minister, Amir Motley, and the Canadian Finance Minister in Barbados to discuss this new product that the fund is launching.
I will end where I started, sir. It must be the toughest job in the world to be the Minister of Finance anywhere in the world right now. Great to have you with us this morning, sir. And I hope you will bring us out of where we are and put us where we should be. God bless you and your family, sir.
No pressure, no pressure.
Thank you. We're making very steady progress, Neville, and Jamaica is doing well under the circumstances as a country. The most important thing is that the stability in the economy, is maintained. But thank you for your good wishes. It is a very, very difficult time. Thank you both for having me.
Blessings, sir. The Honourable Minister of Finance and Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clarke.